Okay, so
Yeah.
Cassidy, why don't we start with just like a basic introduction? Like tell us
Yeah.
about like who you are, how you came to find Write Your Way to Freedom, and just like the basics so we can kind of get to know you better.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I joined Write Your Way to Freedom in December of last year. Like many of you, I was just scrolling through Instagram, saw Sarah's face. I was like, this seems really interesting. Signed up for the free course. I really didn't have any intentions of buying the course after the free one, but Sarah just did such an awesome job of laying everything out. Just in a step-by-step format, showing exactly what you need to do to get your business up and running. I'm sure we're all here for the same reasons. We want freedom. We want the ability to not have a cap on our income. We, want to be able to make something for ourselves. And all of those things are really what ultimately led me to purchase the course. But yeah, I'm a personal finance copywriter. Didn't really know anything about copywriting before I joined this course. When I tell people I'm a copywriter, funny enough, a lot of people think it's like the trademark copywriting, like you're doing legal stuff. I'm sure a lot of people get that. But you have to kind of explain, no, I guess it's kind of like marketing or like sales writing, things like that. But yeah, that's kind of where I am right now. I live in Seattle, Washington, but I moved here just a few months ago. But before that, I'm from Georgia, like the Savannah area. So
Can hear it in the accent.
yeah. I can't get rid of my accent no matter how hard I try. So I'm one.
No, don't get rid of it. I love a Southern accent.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I guess just like, why don't we start out with where you are now, like with like how much you're working and how many
Yeah.
clients you have and stuff like that, because that's kind of like the destination, right? And I mean, you're still obviously growing and you're still going to continue to improve, but I think that will be a good starting. We'll kind of like start with the end and work our way backwards and kind of reverse engineer
Yeah.
like what you did. So let's start
Okay.
there.
Yeah. That sounds really good. So today's the last day of June. And June has been my best month copywriting so far. I've made $3,875. Which, just to give you some context, when I left my full-time job the end of February, my before tax pay was $2,666 a month, which is about $32,000 a year. So just the fact that I joined the course in December, and just a few months later, I'm making $1,000 more than what I was making in my full-time job. Seriously, it just blows my mind every day. But for June, I had 8 consistent clients. So those 8 clients gave me almost $4,000. And those are clients that are on retainer. I don't think I have any clients who aren't on retainer anymore at this point.
So does that mean you're gonna like next month you kind of know you're gonna make at least $4,000?
Yeah, I hope so. I actually have some clients who, even though we're on retainer, they only wanted to start out with like 1 or 2 projects a month, but some of them came back the end of June and were just like, yeah, we want you to do like at least 1 or 2 things for us every week. So if anything, I think those retainers will continue to grow. And like another client that just popped into my head, I started out just writing blog posts for her, and now she wants me to do other things. So I'm writing
very common,
a white paper for her. Yeah, I'm writing like a webinar script. So just different things like that. So the opportunities are definitely starting to roll in at this point.
Yeah, and that's been my experience too. Like blogs are, the reason I recommend blogs is they're a great place to start. It's recurring income, but then you usually like develop a relationship because it's recurring work. So it's like building an ongoing relationship, and then they love that you get to know their voice and their tone and their preferences, and then they start giving you more work. I mean, that's how I even came to write like chapters in books and textbooks, where like that's not really what I want to be doing with my time, but they're like, but you know me the best, and I want you to do it. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it just kind of, it's more about like building a relationship. Whereas, I don't know, like a lot of copywriters who are just doing landing pages or just doing email sequences, like sometimes those are one and done, and then you don't build that relationship and you don't get that ongoing work. So
yeah, and too, I try to put myself in the client shoes. Like if I'm a client and I come across a copywriter, like I feel like you can take a chance on someone with something like a blog post because it's smaller. If you don't like it,
right.
It's okay. And then once you've kind of, I guess, proven yourself to that person, proven that you are, you know, all of the professional things that you say you are, then they're more than willing to pass on more work to you. I had another client come to mind while you were telling your story. We started out with blog posts, and then I ended up revamping his website last month. So it's just,
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Relationships over everything. That's really like my philosophy, you know? Because then you're never hurting for work, and that is the biggest problem for freelancers is they are just always struggling to keep clients. So relationships are like priority number one.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear about how you are now the number one copywriter for personal finance, and what did that, like, how did you do that?
Yes. So if you go back, Sarah and I did like a review of my website back in January, and you actually pointed out after critiquing my website that I was lacking some long tail keywords. And at the time when you said that, I was like, I'm not even really sure what that is, but you know, I did some research, and then I ended up picking one long tail key phrase, which was just personal finance copywriter. And then I tried to put that phrase in as many places on my website as possible where it sounded natural. I mean, you don't want to do like keyword stuffing or anything like that, but I added it to my meta description. I added it throughout the body of my website. I added it to headings. I even added it, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the little tab that runs across like the words that are in the tab on Chrome. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah,
like, I think it may be like a title tag or something. I added it there as well. And then I did all of that, I think back in February or March, and then I kind of just, I like set it and forget it, and I really didn't do much else in regards to SEO. And then in June, I was just like, I'm going to Google personal finance copywriters just to see what pops up. And then I saw that I was number one, and I was like, what?
It's
really
so funny. Yeah, sorry, go ahead. I got excited.
Yeah, that was it.
Well, because then I reached out to you pretty quickly after, because I was doing research for, I honestly forget what made me do this, but I typed in, I didn't even type in personal. I typed in finance copywriter, I think. And you popped up as number one, and I was like, shut up. I was so excited. So I reached out to you and emailed you and was like, do you know that you are number one for finance copywriter? Yeah. And that's the thing about SEO, I think, is that until you put it into practice and you see it work, it feels very abstract, and you don't really know that, like, you know, like a lot of people, even after doing the lesson in my course, and this took me a long time to figure out, they're like, but that's it? Like, surely there's more to it than that. And the answer is, like, not really. It's everyone's best guess. It's, you know what I mean? And, like, there are other things you can do to, like, maintain traction or whatever, and keeping your number one spot in Google and make it stronger. But, like, to get started, it's really pretty simple, and it took me years to figure that out. I mean, I spent so much time learning SEO, and at the end of the day, I was like, we are overcomplicating it. So that's my conclusion on SEO. So I was so stoked to see that.
Yeah, I agree. So my advice to everyone is just, I don't know, whether you really understand what SEO is or not, just try to implement the suggestions in the course, even if it seems like you're not really doing a whole lot, and just kind of leave it be for a little bit and just kind of see what happens, because it's not like you can change SEO and then the next
see it
day
happening.
Go and check. Yeah. So just give it time. Trust the process.
Yeah, it's like a mythical creature or something. You're like, is that real? I don't know. Yeah. Well, cool. That's so exciting. So, I would love to hear, actually, I'm going to turn off this air that just popped on. And hey, Laura, thanks for joining us. I'm going to turn on this air that just popped on, but real quick, I would love to hear, like, what your job, if you're comfortable talking about what your job looked like before, and, like, quitting your job, and if you knew you were going to quit your job and stuff like that. 1 second.
Yeah, so I guess my story is a little interesting. So I found Sarah's course back in December, and my husband and I have been planning for like 9 months before this that we were going to move in February. We were living in Georgia. The lease on our apartment was running up in February. We were both in a place where we felt comfortable leaving the area, trying something new. So I already had the mindset of, I'm going to quit my job in 3 months and I really need something good. And at the time I wasn't thinking, like I wasn't in a business owner mindset or anything like that. If anything, I was just looking for a side hustle, something that could bring in a little bit of income while I looked for a new full-time job, because I didn't know how quickly I would be able to find something. So I found Sarah's course, and then, like I said, took a leap of faith, decided to purchase the course, and then started everything. And I knew, like I said, in my mind, I knew that the end of February I was going to quit my job. So that was kind of the motivation that I needed to work on the course, to go through the modules, even when I was really tired after my full-time job and didn't want to. You know, you have all of those life factors pulling your way, but thankfully the Slight Edge came in the mail, and I just kept reminding myself, you know, like, even if I can only do 20 to 30 minutes every day, I'm going to chip away at the bigger picture and ultimately get the freedom that I want. So, let's see, I'm trying to think. So in February, I'd completed my website, I completed all of my portfolio pieces, and I did cold email just a couple people before I quit my job, but like when I say a couple, I probably cold emailed 10 people, and it really didn't get there. But then I quit my job and decided, you know, like as soon as we got settled into our new place, to start cold emailing pretty hard right off the bat, and that's what I did. Like I would cold email like at least 40 or 50 people every week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then in March, I ended up with 1 client. In April, I had 3 clients. In May, I had 7, and then now I have 8 clients.
Right.
And I haven't
So
cold emailed
fast.
anyone since the end of April, because like the few clients I got after the end of April were people that I'd cold emailed, you know, several weeks ago, and they were like finally getting back out to me. And then I actually had one person find me through LinkedIn, which was really cool as well. But yeah, quitting my job was a really awesome feeling. Like I said, it's a little different because it's not like I bought the course and then decided to quit my job. I already knew that regardless, the end was coming for me in February, but it was really comforting to know that, you know, I didn't have to go apply for a million jobs once I actually quit, that I could, you know, ramp up my work, and I myself could put in the hard work and know that the clients would come as a result, and that I could build something like that.
But didn't you have the intention of looking for a job when you moved to Seattle?
Yeah,
I
did.
Are you still looking for a job?
No. I'm not. So I did apply, I don't know, for maybe like 5 or 6 jobs once I moved out here. And at the time I was like, nothing is panning out. Like I'll just keep going with copywriting. And then thankfully, you know, as I heard from the first client, as I heard from the second client, I started having a little more faith that like, yeah, I can actually do this and build something for myself. But yeah, at the time I was like, why am I not getting job interviews? Like, why is nothing panning out? But now I'm so glad it did, because if I would have, I don't know, taken a full-time job for less pay out of fear, you know, I don't know. I'm just so glad and so thankful that those jobs didn't work out, because now it's even better than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, sometimes those situations end up being like total blessings in disguise, like getting fired. I know a few copywriters who got like fired, and then that was the fuel that they needed to be like, okay, well, I
Yeah.
gotta figure this out. I have no money now. And if it is something that, you know, somebody, it's great as a side hustle, but if it is something that people want to like make a full-time job, like you're gonna get to a point where you have to free up time to, you know, just invest in this whole process. And it gets to that point where it's like, like I'm trying to do 2 things, and you kind of have to take that little leap of faith. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'd love to hear. So, I want to go through some of the questions people asked you. One was, did you create your website yourself? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about that process. Although there is an entire video on this, so we will share that in the link in the like comments below. So, but go ahead. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I did create my website 100% on my own, and it is something I'm very proud of. I remember the day I finished my website, it was in January. I posted a link to the website, and I posted a link of my website to our Facebook group. and I was so nervous to get feedback because I had spent so much time on it, and in the end I thought it was complete crap. And I think that's because I was so close to the whole process, and it took me so long that I was like, I know this is garbage, but I need feedback. And the feedback was great. People were like, your website is really good. And then once I took about a week away from it and went back to it, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, this is way better than I thought it was. But just at the time, you know, you spend so much time on it, it's kind of hard to look back and see
Yeah, I
really
think
how good it is.
yeah, websites are one of those things that like you are so close to it that you do need to take a step back, so you don't just want to like trash it and start from scratch when it's really like not that bad. But is it built on Squarespace or?
Yeah. So the website is built on Squarespace. I had never used Squarespace, been on their website or anything like that before I bought the course. In undergrad, I do have a degree in public relations, which I don't think you need a degree at all. Let me go and preface that. You do not need a degree at all to do copywriting, but I took the long and expensive track here. But yeah, I did build like a Wix website in college. It was like a mandatory project, and I can look back on that and say the website is crap. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have any guidance. I didn't really click with Wix. Like in my mind, I just don't really understand, which some people do, and that's fine if you have a website through Wix. But for me, Squarespace just made more sense. They have the pre-made templates where you can just go in and tweak a few things. So as far as building my website goes, it was mainly just me writing all of the text in a Google Doc, copy and pasting it over into the Word document or into Squarespace, changing out some pictures, and then maybe changing around the layout a little bit if I wanted to. But that was really all I did. I didn't change like the fonts. I didn't change really the colors of anything. I just plugged my info into it.
Squarespace does, I think, the best job. That's why I recommend it at like
Yeah.
pairing fonts, pairing color themes, pairing like just making it look extremely professional on like a budget. You know, people who are paying web designers or whatever, they're paying like minimum $2,000, and a Squarespace site is like $200, and I think it's just every penny. So yeah, Squarespace is awesome, and Wix. I try to like Wix, but I just think their website templates end up looking kind of outdated, and they just they're not doing as great of a job, I think, as Squarespace. So
Yeah, I agree.
So my next question for you is, do you want to share like a time where you had, maybe it was just a small moment of doubt, or maybe it was like really overwhelming doubt about like this whole process and why you kept going, or, you know, just kind of like how you overcame it, because that's part of the process.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I will say there are a lot of little moments of doubt that you face. I think you face a little bit of doubt in the beginning because it just seems like you have so much to do before you get there. And how you overcome that doubt is just by sticking with it, chipping away little by little, doing the hand copy challenge, trying to do your first portfolio piece, doing the mindset work before all of that, like just doing all of those pieces. But then I would say the biggest point of doubt for me was when it was time to cold email. And when I sent out those first 15 or 20 emails and heard nothing back, because, and I know a lot of other people in our group have said this too, you know, they've said that they're a lot slower at cold emailing than they thought they would be. And that was 100% me. And I think it's because I spend so much time on a company's website, like reading a couple of their blogs, like trying to get an idea of like their voice before I cold email them. And it would take me, I don't know, it would seem like all day emails in a day. I was like, this is good. So I think for me, that was really the biggest point of doubt, because I had put in so many hours of cold emailing and researching and finding email addresses, and it seemed like I was getting nowhere. And that, you know, was part of the reason why I kept applying for full-time jobs, because I was like, in that
this isn't going to work, right?
Yeah, in that moment, I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, even though I've done all the prep work, I mean, if I can't even get a single email response, then, you know, it's like, what do you do? But anyway, I just kept trying to cold email and chisel away, and then I would say it was within like my first 30 cold emails, I got my first response. And completely hit it off with this lady. She is like my biggest and best client to this day. But
Yes.
yeah, but anyway, it was really her. Like once you hear from that first person, and honestly, I feel like even if your first response is a no, like just knowing that your cold emails aren't going out into the stratosphere where no one is hearing them, like just knowing that someone is reading what you're emailing them is very comforting. But yeah, once I got the first one, it's kind of reassuring. It's like, okay, I got one yes, like I can keep doing this. I can keep getting more yeses. And really that was like the biggest point of doubt for me, was in that whole process of cold emailing.
Yeah, no. And the thing about cold emailing, so I tried outreach of every kind, right? And that's why I chose cold email. I eventually came to the conclusion that cold emailing is the best option. And it's why it's like the foundation of like building your client base. Because the thing about cold emailing is, yes, it's kind of scary. I mean, it is scary because you feel like, are they reading it? Is this working? But at the end of the day, unlike doing job boards or applying for jobs or wherever, you get to start out on top, like kind of with, not the employee mindset. So you're starting out with already a relationship where you're bringing value and you're bringing, you're not the employee. So I like that. You're not applying for a job. But the other thing about cold emails is like you are hiding behind your computer. Like, it's not like cold calling. Like a lot of people do cold calling or they go in person. But with cold emailing, like, I mean, yeah, it doesn't feel great to not hear from people. But as far as like all the other forms of rejections go, it's like usually
The
radio
best one.
silence as opposed to somebody directly looking at you and being like, no. So like the rejection, like pain, I think, of cold emailing compared to every other thing I tried is a the least painful, but you still have to put yourself out there. And the benefit of it is that you end up with somebody you actually want to work with because you chose them. And then also in my experience, a lot of people that you cold email don't necessarily know they need a copywriter until you explain to them like the benefits of it. So I don't know if that's happened to you, if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think the scariest part about cold emailing, it's not, for me personally, like it wasn't so much the fear of rejection, it was more like the imposter syndrome, because in my case, I had never had a real client before. All of my portfolio pieces were just on topics that I thought were really cool and that I wrote about myself. So for me, like I was cold emailing someone being like, I'm a professional copywriter, like this is what I bring to the table. And the biggest part of fear for me was I didn't really believe at the time that I was all of those things, or like I didn't have the confidence because I didn't have the experience to know. So it was just kind of like hoping that they didn't see this kind of facade, I guess.
Right.
And then that gets better. Once you get one yes, once you get another yes, even if you get, like I had people who told me no in the nicest way possible. They were just like, I've looked at your website, you're a really great writer, we're just not really looking for someone, or we don't do, we only do our copywriting in-house, something like that. Like some people told me no in the nicest way possible, and even that's kind of like a little confidence boost. But as you cold email, as you get clients, you gain the confidence of knowing I really am this professional that I've been saying that I am, and I really can bring all these things to the table. So it gets easier and it gets less nerve-wracking.
Right. And that's the other thing about being a copywriter and like versus a content writer is I just think that people choose content writer because it's less scary. But I think it's good to just go ahead and commit to the fact that you're going to take the time to learn your audience and figure out how you can write in a way that really connects and gets people to act and engage with your brand. And like you end up really helping people. And as long as like that's your intention, I think it's okay to like promise a little bit above what you know how to do, but then keep those promises. Like I just think that's the way to grow exponentially. Is I've said this before, but like one of my favorite lines that I heard in an interview was where somebody was asking this woman like, how did you get so like good so fast? And she was like, I just made promises I wasn't 100% sure I could keep, but then I did everything to keep them. And like that's how I am. I'm never gonna not show up. If it's slightly above what I know I can do, I'm going to maybe take a loss to make sure I, to make sure I show up and I do what I said I was going to do. So I get it. Like, it's kind of like pushing the imposter syndrome faster than waiting. Like, because the thing is with the imposter syndrome is it's always there. So you can sit there and wait till it feels better to like make your next move, or you can just be like, I'm going to ignore you and I'm going to do it anyway. So
yeah, and that's like part of the philosophy I've been trying to keep with the clients that I have now. Like as they brought new projects to me, like this last one is like writing a webinar, which I have like the script for a webinar, which I've never done before in my life, but I know that I have the time to do it. And even though I don't feel 100% ready to do it, I know that all the information I need to do it is out there.
mm-hmm.
And I know that I can take the time and use the resources to make sure that it is 100% how it needs to be before I pass it off to her. So I've been trying to like quiet the imposter syndrome that way and just kind of push through the nerves and, you know, just remind myself that every single time I do something I don't really want to do, I get more comfortable with it. And that's how you grow.
Well, not only that, sometimes I think that the students are the best people to do a project because they're constantly searching for new and better ways to do it. Like sometimes the experts get complacent. So as long as you're not getting complacent and you're really working hard for your clients to deliver like the best product, like that's all you can do, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's honestly probably better than most people are bringing to the table. But and obviously, but yes, getting better with practice always helps. Just a quick word of that. There's a really helpful resource I found when writing my first webinar. I think it's called The Perfect Webinar. And I think it's Russell, it's the ClickFunnels guy. But it was really helpful for me. It's a YouTube video called The Perfect Webinar pitch or script, something like that. But it's like one of the first things that comes up when you Google how to write a webinar. So you may have already come across it.
Okay. I've not, but I will look for it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll drop it in the comments. So we got webinar. And then there's a question in here from Amber. Did you get more responses after the first cold email or the follow-up email? That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like it's kind of 50-50. I feel like I got a lot more no's after the follow-up email. And what I mean by that is like a lot of people, they didn't respond at all. And then once I would send a follow-up email, that's when they would email back and be like, oh, our staff of copywriters, we're not really looking for anyone else, or we don't really work with outside copywriters. That's when they would kind of give justification as to why they haven't responded. So I feel like it was about 50-50. I feel like more of my yeses came after that first email, but that's just been my personal experience, and it could be completely different from someone else.
Right. Honestly, after a while, I stopped sending follow-up emails because I just didn't really see any benefit in them. And I just eventually stopped. So I think that, I mean, like that was kind of my experience too. It was like, finally they were like, no, this is why. Well, I didn't get and actually now I'm thinking about it, like I really didn't get yeses from follow-up emails, which is why I think it's a good idea to send them. Especially to see if they work for you, but I don't think that they're necessarily like the best.
I think I had like one yes after a follow-up, but when we did do a call together, but then the call really didn't go anywhere. And I've had two people like that who we had like the consultation call after the cold email. They were kind of interested, but like one person needed her boss's approval to see like if they had it in the budget. Another person, I don't know, like it just kind of fizzled. But personally, I was okay with that because at the time, like all of my other clients were kind of ramping up. So I was like, if these don't pan out, you know, that's okay.
That's a fun wish to have. Please, I don't need any more clients. I guess one more question is, somebody asked if you would be willing to share your cold email template.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have it on my Google Drive, so I'll
drop the link in the comments of this after. That's awesome that you're willing to share it. Something that I really have noticed in life and business is, and I'm actually reading this book called Tribal Leadership, which is really talking about it. So it's really reinforcing this idea that I kind of just like felt. But I'd also heard people say is that I think the old school mindset and kind of the mindset most of us were raised to believe is that we're in competition with each other. And I get that all the time. People are like, why would you teach copywriting? You're going to create more competition for yourself. And I'm like, No, there's so much work to go around, and I
Yeah.
like physically am only capable of writing so much and
Mhm.
taking on, like, there's a cap on the number of clients I can take comfortably. And so I just have found that when we position our shift our mindset and don't think of it as competition, like sharing this cold email template is not really creating competition for you because you've
No.
found your little niche and there's room for other people everywhere. Like there's so much room. And I have found that when I change the way I think of competition to be more inclusive and more collective, like we together as Write Your Way to Freedom students are going to collectively help each other, like all this opportunity, I don't know, call it karma, what do you want, like whatever it is, it just like comes back and
Yeah.
like exponentially. And I think that's the same with money. Like when I stopped obsessing over money and being like super neurotic about money, and I just kind of like loosened my grip on it, like higher paying clients came to me. And so I'm really happy that you're willing to share the cold email. And I don't know if you have any
Yeah.
thoughts you want to add to that. Like, do you feel like you're in competition with people in the group, or how do you feel about all that?
No, like my thought has always been there's power in numbers. And if I would have set out to try to be a copywriter by myself, I would still be on step one of everything because, I mean, collaboration is like how you grow and how you learn. And even, like as you start to do your portfolio pieces, like you'll post links in our group and get people's feedback, and people will offer the most invaluable feedback that you would have never thought of in a million years, and you take that piece of feedback and you're able to work it into everything you do moving forward in the future. So yeah, I really believe in power in numbers, and that sharing, both the good and the bad is how you grow, and that's how you become a better copywriter. And I really don't view, like, even other people who are personal finance copywriters, I don't view them as competition. If anything, I feel like we need to join together, so that you can share, something that you're struggling with, and then maybe they can offer advice on how to fix it, or, if they've gone through a similar struggle. So collaboration is definitely always.
Collaboration over competition all the way.
Yeah,
So
yeah, there you go.
it's
Collaboration
so
over
good.
competition. Yeah.
Yeah. I love to hear you say that because that has been my experience too. And I don't know, I want that for everyone because it feels better too. You feel like you're a part of like a team and a club, and we're in like this copywriter club where nobody understands what our job is, but it's like super important.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
secret
had
society.
yeah. Yeah, I had so many questions in the beginning as I was getting started, and I'm sure everyone else in our group probably feels the same way. And you post all of your questions in our Facebook group, and I mean, yeah, everything is just so new. That's how you learn. You just get advice from other people, and then as you become more established, then you can be the one that answers other people's questions as they have them. So
Yeah, and like that's the thing I love about our group, and just like this whole concept is that I want to help the person who was in my shoes 5 years ago, right? And like because you remember it, you're like, oh man, that's tough, like
yeah,
let's talk
it's
about that.
stressful.
Here's what worked for me, and
Mm.
like it might not be exactly what worked for them, or maybe they take a piece of it, but like it's just the best. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it really is.
Awesome. Well, Donna asked if you use Calendly for your calls to schedule.
Yeah, I do. I haven't had anyone, I do have Calendly on my website. I haven't had anyone schedule a Calendly call with me through my website, but usually I always include it in the bottom of my cold email template, which you will get after this call. And then a lot of times, funny enough, people will be like, yes, I'm interested. Like, how can we set up a time to call? And I'll just like schedule and paste link back in there and be like, you can schedule a call with me here.
So fun.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Calendly all the way. Because I use my Google Calendar too, and it links up, so I never have to worry about someone scheduling a call when I have something else scheduled on my Google Calendar. It will automatically take those times away if it knows you're busy. So it's really nice.
Yeah, it's the best. And then
Yeah.
Donna made a good point. She said, also the more quality copywriters there are, as people basically become aware that copywriters are important, the more people know that they need us. And I think that's definitely true. Yeah, there's like a growing awareness of like the importance of marketing, because marketing used to just be reserved for like big brands like Apple and Coca-Cola. And
Yeah.
now like all these small businesses are online and they can't hire an agency. They just want like a freelancer who's going to really like help them. And then
Yeah.
Anne says your website is amazing, which it is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know I may have already mentioned this, but if you go back and watch the video that I did with Sarah back in January, my website really hasn't changed much, but to me, it's improved a lot since then, mainly just like the portfolio pieces. I went back and added a few more like call to action buttons, but those are all things that I did after I'd been copywriting for a few months and felt comfortable enough to identify what needed improving on my website. So I just don't want anyone to look at my website right now and think it has to be that good before I start cold emailing and finding clients, because that's certainly not true. Like, you just need something that shows your prices, that shows, you know, a few writing samples, and then you can always go back and improve as you grow.
And didn't you say your initial writing samples were just things you made up, like they weren't actual jobs?
Yeah, I had 3 writing samples on my website. They were all things. One was actually just posted through like an unlisted link on my website. Another one was on Medium. And then as I started getting published pieces, I went back and replaced them. And honestly, I just went back and replaced them like maybe 3 weeks ago. So it was just all of my personally written portfolio pieces up until that point. So you can definitely change things out as you go.
That's awesome. All right, I want to wrap up because, you know, I love to like encourage people to dream like huge, like scary big. So if you're comfortable, I feel like this is a safe place to share those dreams. Do you have any like crazy big dreams that you want to like, where you want to take this, or have you allowed yourself to kind of start thinking those things yet?
Yeah, so life is really, really, really good right now, and I'm so thankful for the work that I have, but I do have like some little goals that I'm trying to work through. The main one is just getting more efficient with everything, and this is another thing I want to tell people. Like, once you start writing, just remind yourself that like this is all brand new. Like, it's okay if it takes you 5 hours to write your first article, or if you're like me, it took all day, mainly because I was, you know, struggling with my mindset of like trying to get through everything. But as you go, you do get more confident, you do get more efficient, you figure out what works best for you. So you're able to kind of settle into your new normal. But yeah, so one goal for me is just getting more into my routine, getting a little more efficient, because right now I feel like if I added up all of my hours, I am working a little more than 40 hours a week, but I'm not working like 8 a.m. to like 7 p.m. or something like that. Like, I take breaks when I want to. I'll wake up and work for like an hour or two on a Saturday, or I'll work like an hour or two before bed on Sunday. But ideally, I do want to kind of keep like my 8 to 5 routine Monday through Friday, because that's something that really works for me. So that's one of my goals. But then another goal is just with my income. I guess I will say it out loud that I would love to make $8,000. I don't know that that's something. I don't know. I should just.
It's possible. Don't take that second part of that off. It's so scary to say out loud, and I'm proud of you for even saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Have you said that out loud before?
No.
Yeah.
Ideally, my next goal is $5,000. When I started out, my goal was to be making like $5,000 by the end of this year. So
close.
Yeah, and I mean, now that I'm already so close, I'm like, well, maybe I can make it like the $8,000 or whatever. So I think I just need to speak it into existence and then know that it's something I can work toward. That goes all the way back to all the mindset stuff. That's why mindset is module 1, and that's why it's so important, because you know, it really does set you up for success.
It's scary to say those goals out loud, but again, in my experience, you got to say them out loud in a safe place, like with this group is a good example.
Yeah.
You know, because once you start saying out loud, it's like like the wheels start turning and it starts happening, and you start seeing like things that can be done to like help you achieve your goals. I think it's totally reasonable. You're already at $4,000 a month, 6 months in, and the first 6 months are the slowest months. So I think that should be your end of the year goal. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's reasonable.
Yeah. I was going to say too, like when you're in the thick of it, it's hard because to me, when I first started, I was like, even if I ever made like $2,500, that would just blow my mind, knowing that like I made that much money for myself. And I know I said this in my testimonial video, but when I got my first client in March, I made $120 that month. I mean, that's absolutely nothing. And then I was like, okay, well, I know I can at least double this, you know, even though double still is a lot of money. But when I went into April, I made $504. And I was like, okay, well, I know I can pass that $1,000 month the next month. But then all of my hard work, it's kind of like the slide edge and compound interest, like all of it just started to explode. Yeah, that is right, because that's exactly what started happening. And when I ended the month of May, I'd made like around $2,800, which was way more than my goal of $1,000, which at the time I thought was very like out there. That goes back to the whole I should be able to set my goal for 8,000 and know that I can work toward it. But yeah, all of your hard work will start to, you know, explode and come back to you, and it will really start to pay off. So just hang in there and keep chipping away at it and have faith in yourself that things will get better.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the little daily actions you take in the beginning when the curve is like so slight, like you just don't see it making a difference. You're just like, is this working? I don't know. And then like if you just keep your head down and you keep working and you kind of trust that it's going to work out and you just keep doing the work a little bit at a time, like all of a sudden you look up and you're like, holy shit, I'm on that like upswing and things are exploding and this is insane.
And like you can, once you're in that place, it's so easy to look back and be like, yeah, like I'm doing it, I'm making it. But you have to remind yourself, like before you hit that point, you had no idea that you were going to make it. Like you were just keeping your head down the whole way. But yeah.
And then what happens is you start to need to remind yourself the things that you kind of should be grateful for that you now take for granted. Like you were telling me about not having to ask anyone for time off when family comes to visit. Like you just kind of like, after you work for yourself for a few years, like if you do this, you know, for the next like 5 years, you're going to be like, I don't know. Like when my siblings were planning to come down this week for my granddad's birthday, and everyone was talking about, oh, but we're going to the beach after, and I only have this many days off this year. So they're driving down like 4 hours just to spend Sunday afternoon and then to go back to their job because they don't have enough time off to be able to also come to the beach and to make it to Christmas. Like they're planning out their Christmas vacation time too now. And I don't say this because it's like, it's not nice, but in my head I was like, I am so grateful. I have to worry about that. Like it's fun.
Yeah.
And you
That's
forget.
that's the thing I love the most, especially now because all of our family is still on the East Coast, both mine and my husband's, and we're now on the West Coast. And we've already had family come out and visit. Like my mom and stepdad came on Wednesday and left yesterday, and I didn't even have to think about asking off for that. Like I have a friend coming next month for a week. I can just work around our schedule, you know, but I don't have to ever ask off for work. And that in and of itself is just priceless, you know, just the freedom that comes with that. So I will gladly work for a few hours right now on the weekend in addition to working through the week to be able to have that kind of freedom. Like that's such a low trade-off to have to make.
Yeah. I mean, even hopping on this call, my family was like, you have to work. And I was like, no, I get to work. I'm going to like go talk to a student right now. It's going to be sweet and it's going to be fun and exciting. That's, I have a friend who calls her to-do list, her get-to-do lists. And I just love it because it's like, it's true. Like when you like are working for yourself and it's all coming back to you and just building momentum, like it's a get-to-do list. It's not like you have to do anything really, but you kind of have to because it feels good. So
I'm gonna have to take that for myself. Get-to-do list.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to like add, like any advice or just final thoughts?
No, I guess like I've said before, because I keep saying this because I know there are so many new people in our group right now. I just know all the feelings of imposter syndrome. I also had shiny object syndrome where I would like think of this new idea for a second, and then the moment things started getting tough, I was like, okay, I got to find something else that seems easier. But I promise you, the payoff is so worth it. So keep the slight edge in mind, you know, just keep doing, because I know we also have a lot of people who still are working full time, or their parents, or, you know, they just have like a lot of real world stuff going on. Just do as much as you can. And if all you can do is 20 minutes in a day, don't beat yourself up about it, but just keep at it, and I promise you it will pay off.
Yay, that's awesome. See, because I say these things all day long, but it's just like, you got to hear it from other people, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I think it's
absolutely.
so important
I'm
to hear
glad
it.
you decided to do this series, because I think we'll all benefit from it so much.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. It was actually Chrissy's idea. I was like,
Chrissy, you
Chrissy,
rock.
great idea. Yeah, Chrissy rocks.
He's full of good ideas. Yeah.
She's so full of good ideas. Hey, Samantha, we're actually wrapping up, but there'll be a replay. Does anybody who's watching live have any questions for Cassidy before we head out? Any final thoughts that come to mind? Thank you for doing this. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. Let's see.
Yay, Erica just said thank you and that she loves the get to do list. Can you see her comments?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, you can see them. And then Marla. Yeah. No worries, Samantha. Do you have any questions? There's some awesome questions that are answered though, so it might be. Thanks, Marla. Thanks, Samantha. Thanks, Emily.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for bearing with us while we try to get all the technical difficulties taken care of. But if anyone does have any questions at all, you know, after this call, 5 months from now, whenever, I am more than happy to answer any questions you have. So please feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll help you as much as I can.
That's so awesome, Cassidy. Cassidy, one last question. Was it weird to list on LinkedIn that your profession now, like as your copywriter?
Yeah, it was. So I started, let's see, when I started the course, I still had my full-time job, and it was really weird listing both jobs on there at the same time. I did it even though I didn't really want to, because I didn't know like what questions would come of it. And I did kind of downplay it just because everything was so new. So people would be like, oh, like, what is this copywriting thing? I'd be like, oh, it's just a side hustle I'm working on. And I would just kind of, you know, like play it off like that, because I really didn't know what would come of it. And I know some other people in our group feel the same way. But then once I quit my job, I was like, you know what? I was like, leap of faith. I was like, I'm changing everything. You know, if people are interested, I can just be like, yeah, you know, like, I'm starting this new thing. You can check out my website if you want to learn more. Yeah, you know, something simple as that.
I mean, when I first started telling people I was going to be a copywriter, especially at family functions, that was so hard for me because everybody thought I was crazy that I wasn't going back to get like my PhD or something. I just was so embarrassed. I was like, I am a copywriter, and like I just remember like my skin actually crawling because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's weird because you're right. There is like this level of embarrassment that comes with it. I guess because you're not successful yet by like your mind's terms. Like, you don't want to tell people that you're doing this thing because you may fail at it. But yeah, so you're right. There is like a level of embarrassment with it. But once again, you just have to push through it. You know, just push through
now
the
I'm like at family functions, like, hey, how's your 9 to 5? Come see me if you're like all the way out. No, I'm just kidding. I
love it.
Well, it was so great talking with you. And guys, thank you for your awesome questions. We're going to do this once a month. I'll announce it when we get closer and to the next one. This is great.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, bye. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Bye.